All right, we are live. Sean Mitchell, Eric Strait, coming at you here with a live Q&A session, and to update everyone who's been asking on what happened to those remaining 9 kilowatt hours on the battery pack.
Definitely the number one question.
Yeah, and you know, to be quite honest, it's the question that we didn't answer on any of our previous things. So I think we wanted to make sure that we had an answer directly from the source, right?
Yep.
So we went to the service center. In fact, we did this a few days after the hypermile was done, and we talked directly to some representatives at Tesla to get some more clarification on where those remaining 9 kilowatt hours could possibly have gone. So we'll address that here in just a moment, but want to just say to everyone who's watching live here that you're welcome to throw out some questions to us. We'll be answering questions until things slow down or until one of us has to jump off. But feel free and add your questions to the chat. We will see them as they come through, and we'll kind of address your Model 3 Hypermile questions as they come in. So maybe I'll just ask you before we jump into the 9 remaining kilowatt hours. What's life been like after hypermile world record for you, Eric?
Tiring. No, it actually hasn't been too bad. It's been funny. A lot of people have been messaging me. All my coworkers were like, "You popped up in my newsfeed. This is so weird." Like, it was actually pretty cool. We got a lot of reach on that, and a lot of people recognized it. I don't know if it was for better or worse, but they recognized it.
Yeah. I mean, I saw articles in Korean,
Norwegian,
Spanish, Russian. I think
there was a German one.
Right. I think so. Yep. I think you're right. And I was on a podcast a few days ago. We were on the local newspaper, Denver Post, right? You took some questions from those guys.
Yep. And actually, funny, let me grab something. My mom actually saved this. Where did I put it? Anyway,
is it a news clipping?
It might be upstairs. It was actually the newspaper article.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
from the Denver Post, or was it from someone else?
Saved it for me.
Was it from the Denver Post?
Yeah. Yep.
Very cool. Because I don't have access to the Denver Post. They put it behind a paywall or subscriber wall, so yeah, I couldn't even read the article.
Yeah. I have a picture of it. I know on my phone. I'll go ahead and message it to you, but can tweet it out and everything. But yeah, it was pretty cool. My mom even saved it, so they had a blast. And yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. It was really, really nice to see everyone come out and join us at the supercharger. That was awesome of people to do so, especially at that late hour.
Yeah, it was like midnight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very surprising. And I know we kind of talked about this, you and I, and I'm losing track of what we've kind of shared publicly. But one of the things that caught me by surprise was how many people actually wanted to join the live stream while we were actually driving.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think most of the time we had between like 100 and 200 plus people. At the very end, obviously, it really grew. But we actually had a pretty solid group of people watching the entire time.
Really, yeah, really impressive. And after I got home, my wife Heidi was telling me how, she was watching it and she was like, really kind of caught up in the momentum of everything. And she said it was a little addicting.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the reality TV that everyone loves. I mean, it's kind of like our own form of Big Brother stuck in a car.
Right.
So we definitely had like the whole live capture thing, and people love it. So it worked out really well. So
I went. I downloaded over the weekend. I downloaded all the footage, all 32 hours, and I condensed it down to a 20-minute review of a recap of our experience, and I published that on my YouTube channel. And I actually found myself going through some of the video thinking, wow, this is actually kind of exciting. Like you know, it's you know, 2 frames, 2 shots, either looking forward or looking at us. But I found myself thinking, wow, okay, this is actually kind of exciting. So it was really, really interesting.
Yeah, I've grown to be a lot more liking to the live sessions. Before, I didn't really care for it too much, but I really like the interaction with people and just like the instant like reactions and everything. So I actually think live streaming might be something I do a little bit more often, just because that instant feedback and everything is just really kind of cool.
Agree. Totally agree. All right, so let's address the question that a lot of people have been asking us on Twitter, which is, where did the remaining 9 kilowatt hours go in the battery? Now, if you're just kind of watching and hearing this for the first time, we did a hypermile with the Model 3, drove 606 miles, and only got 66 kilowatt hours out of the 75 kilowatt hour battery pack. And we were kind of actually surprised as well when we were driving, even though we knew that we were kind of pushing the limits of the battery. We had been driving for what, 50 miles after it hit 0.
Yeah, it was quite a bit.
But we were kind of thinking maybe the battery, the way that it was displaying, that maybe it wasn't as accurate or a little bit off, and we were expecting to drive for another couple of hours.
Yeah, I mean, I was full on expecting not to end till like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. So I was a little surprised, but when it did actually say car shutting down, it was at the perfect location.
Yes.
That was if we had already made that right turn, it would have been a lot more difficult. But yeah, I was expecting to go for another 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So I was kind of surprised that it just kind of died out like that.
Yep. It ended in the perfect place, and we had enough energy to kind of roll into the hotel parking lot where the supercharger is. So we really only ended up pushing the car, what would you say, like 100 yards or so?
Yeah, I was gonna say probably like 200 feet. It wasn't far at all.
Yep. Yep. All right. So we had a chance to talk with Tesla after they got the car back up and running. So the first issue was, why did it run out and not start? I think both of us kind of answered that question online.
Yep.
Tesla replaced the 12-volt battery, and once they replaced that, it was able to charge at both low voltage and high voltage. So that's why when we plugged it into the supercharger, it didn't do anything. When the battery pack is depleted, it relies on the 12-volt battery to open up the contactors and start the charge. But it couldn't do that since it was such low voltage. Yep. But the other question we had was, why did we only get 66 kilowatt hours out of the battery? We had a chance to talk with Tesla, local Tesla, and they kind of proposed the idea that potentially the battery management system, or the BMS. I always think of something else, like it's another acronym before I started following electric cars. But the battery management system used up that remaining 9 kilowatt hours out of the 32 hours that we were driving to try and maintain the optimal temperature in the battery pack. So what did you think, Eric, when you heard that?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I kind of understood it was basically we expected to do better at higher temperatures because the outside was more optimal for the battery. But the way the motors work on the Model 3 is it actually puts a lot of that back and also the heat into the battery pack to also heat it up. And in doing so, turned on the air compressor, which cooled that. And that's, I think, where the 9 kilowatt hours went. But in doing that, it only has one air compressor. So we kind of suffered for no reason.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's sort of my understanding as well.
Okay.
With the Model S and X, there are two compressors, one to run the AC and one to circulate the coolant in the battery pack. But with the 3, they combined it into one. And so the technician said that if we wanted to try this again in cooler temperatures, that we may use less energy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we might have been able to run the AC and not have any difference in energy usage.
Yeah. We're just telling ourselves, or at least I'm telling myself, it would have affected it, but I don't actually think it would have, based on what we were told.
Right. So it's kind of got me thinking, Eric. Maybe we should try this again with the Model 3. I kind of cringe internally, even just saying that out loud, but it would be really interesting to do two things, make two changes to our hypermile attempt. One, maybe change the route so that there are 0 stops, because we had to kind of slow down 2 different times in our 1 mile loop, one at a stoplight, and then one kind of turning a 90-degree turn onto kind of the main curved section. So that's my first thought. Like maybe we could find something that requires 0 stops or to slow down very minimally, and 2, maybe choose a different time of the year to do it in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The year, definitely. The no stops is a little trickier. As you know, when we were looking for the route, we had a heck of a time trying to find the perfect route. The elevation change that we found, or that you actually found, was perfect. But definitely finding something without stop signs or stoplights would definitely be ideal, I think.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of people that I saw on Twitter saying, maybe you should have found a more straightaway or a route that requires less stops, but the terrain in the Denver area is very hilly, and of course as you go further west in Denver, then you hit like massive mountains. So even east of Denver we encountered, the first route that we did, we hit like 400 feet or 500 feet of elevation change on that first proposed route that we tested. And then we kind of worked our way down, right, until we found this one that was only 10 feet.
Yeah, the 10-foot one was like the perfect elevation change. Not too much, not too little. But yeah, unfortunately, it was the stoplight that probably chewed up a bunch.
So maybe trying it in a place that's maybe out. I'm just thinking, like, if anyone wanted to challenge this record and try and beat us, maybe a more moderate temperature. So here's the kind of thing. Let me finish my thought. So maybe a more moderate temperature and a place where it's flatter and where you can travel more kind of on a straight line before you have to kind of curve or take a stop. But,
yeah, definitely.
So I looked at the 2 videos of Teslanomics. I looked at Teslanomics, and I also looked at Bjorn Nyland's video where they kind of ran the Model 3 down. Ben ran his down to 0. Bjorn Nyland ran his down to 70 kilowatt hours. And Ben actually got a full 75 kilowatt hours out of his battery pack. So what do you think happened there? Why did he get a different result?
I haven't had much chance to talk to him about temperature and like his terrain that he was going on. But if it was a large downhill section, that could have put some back in that the battery management system might have used. It also probably was temperature. I am willing to bet it was cooler there than the 108 in the car that we were dealing with. So I really think the temperature for the BMS played a big thing.
Yeah, I sent an email to Ben earlier today, and I'm just pulling up the email to see if he has added any further comment. But no, he hasn't. But I asked him about the temperature because I saw that he was wearing a jacket, and he said that it was 70 degrees.
Yeah.
So And there were mountains in the background, and that was a question that I didn't get back from him before this recording, which is, did you have to go over any mountains?
Right.
But the temperature clearly was cooler than what it was when we did it, which was around, what, 93 or so?
During the day, I think it peaked outside at like 93, 94.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely a lot hotter during the day. And we had basically 2-day cycles. Well, I mean, I guess we kind of started more in the evening, but that next day it was hot for a very long time. So that easily.
Yeah, there's definitely room for some further testing.
Yep.
I didn't personally notice any change in watt hours per mile during the day.
Yeah.
But strangely, I noticed it in the evening, like in the middle of the night when it was colder. I noticed that the watt hours, I think we finished at 110 watt hours per mile, but in the evening, in the middle of the night when it was colder, I noticed that it kind of crept up to like 113 or 114 watt hours per mile.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely think that doing it probably when it was cooler would be a lot better.
Yes, agreed. Agreed for sure. Okay, so the question everyone wants to know is: are we going to do this again? Should we? What's say Eric on this one? Should we leave it as a maybe? Heck no, or
I'm gonna say there probably is more to come.
Okay.
Cool. I have a hard time just leaving it. Those 9 missing kilowatt hours are eating at me. So that's like all I'm thinking about lately is 9, because we could have gone so much further had we had that 9 available.
Yep. Yep.
We definitely could have surpassed 700.
We could have definitely crossed over the 621 miles or 1,000 kilometers.
Yep.
And we probably would have gotten very close to passing the 700 too.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, it's painful. I'm sure we can come up with some other methods too to make it a little easier on us. But I definitely don't think this is the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Okay. Well, there you have it. To be continued for sure. So we'll leave it at that. And then you'll just have to stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to Eric and I's YouTube channels if you're not already, to keep up to date with any future potential attempts in the Model 3 or maybe another car.
Huh? Yeah, I mean, you never know.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next video.
Yep. Bye.